there's a lot of virtue signaling from various brands, as we all know, which is one of those things that just triggers that anti-corporatist part of me, because, you know, most of the companies that are making these virtue signals about how they stand with whatever, they're doing it out of a guilty conscience. Star Wars stands with black people? Bullshit. Were you standing with black people when you let Chinese marketers shrink John Boyega's image on the Episode 7 poster? But was that standing with black people and standing up for them? Fuck no. You're a fucking multi-million dollar, if not a multi-billion dollar movie company. You can suck my ass with your fucking bullshit about who you stand with. It's posturing, because you don't want people calling you naughty words on the internet and affecting your brand, your precious brand. But the one that I want to talk about isn't Star Wars. Similar though to Lucasfilm and some of the posts they've been putting out, Wizards of the Coast and the producers of Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games have also been making a lot of similar noise. And once again, guilty conscience. As soon practically as D&D stopped being given shit from right-wing people back in the 80s and 90s about it being satanic, it started being attacked for being racist. And that's the whole core of why they've been virtue signaling and increasing waves over the last couple decades. But, you know, I've been around D&D for a long time. Back to the AD&D days. The AD&D was the first type of AD&D I ever played. You know, a couple months ago, or maybe just a month ago, there was like some stink about orcs being a racist trope and all that stuff. And Sargon of Akkad had a live stream where he was making fun of it. And in it, you know, he was talking about how 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons is the best edition of D&D. No, it's not. AD&D is the best edition of D&D. It gives you more information than you could know what to do with, as opposed to all the books that Wizards of the Coast put out, which are real pretty looking and well produced, but they take up so much space on every page with unneeded art and all these thick margin borders and stuff, that it really, what they're doing is cutting down on the amount of text that they're actually selling you. And especially if you're a game master, dungeon master, the reason you're buying the books isn't to look at pretty art. The reason you're buying the books is because you're looking for information to help you run your game. And they're cheating you out and charging you more with these fancy looking 5th edition fucking books. This is bullshit. You want some good stuff? You fucking dig out some classic D&D. Drive-through RPG prints a lot of this stuff. This is how I got a brand new copy of the Rule Cyclopedia, which I don't intend to ever run, but there's a lot of resources in here that can be mined. And that's just the same thing with the AD&D stuff. There's things about 5th edition rules that I like. It's real streamlined and easy to play, especially for beginners. And it's not quite as video gamey as 4th edition had been. But the setting information is so lacking. So I've been collecting a bunch of old AD&D supplements that I could find that are available for print through Drive-Thru RPG and getting them. And one thing I noticed while looking through, the old setting information from Mystara, the very original Dungeons and Dragons setting, going back to OD&D, even before AD&D times, is that it was actually a much more diverse and inclusive setting than anything Wizards of the Coast has been putting out for the last couple decades. You know, also including AD&D. Old D&D had cultures and settings that were based on, medieval Europe, but they also had cultures and settings based on Middle Eastern society, Central Asian society, East Asian society, Native American societies, African societies, and Aboriginal societies, and so on and so on. Whereas modern D&D, ever since Wizards of the Coast has taken over it, and possibly because of the popularity of the Lord of the Rings, has leaned more and more in these very Eurocentric type settings that are always reminiscent of medieval Europe and draw heavily, exclusively from European mythology, with the exception of a few things that are considered to be classic, iconic D&D monsters. But always, for some reason, stuck in the middle of a forested northern land like Germany instead of some, Middle Eastern desert like the creature in question should be. You shouldn't have manticores in a fucking forested northern latitude. Anyway, though, it's, Wizards of the Coast, like all their settings they publish now, they haven't rebooted Al-Qadim. They've had years of virtue signaling of how supportive they are about diversity within the setting, but they don't reboot their North African setting that they had from the AD&D days. But we get the Sword Coast of Faerun instead as the primary setting for 5th edition. I mean, the closest thing to an African setting that AD&D or that Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons has put out in the last decade is probably the stuff they did for Dark Sun back during 4th edition. And that's not at all Africa. You know, for people who used to bitch about Rifts being racist and how, like, Rifts World Book 4 Africa was racist, at least it's set in fucking Africa. A lot of games can't even fucking do that shit. But man, they want to go on fucking Twitter and talk about how much they support the black man. Bull fucking shit. Bull fucking shit. I don't buy it for a goddamn minute. Once again, I just reiterate to role-playing game fans, if you have never seen the old D&D stuff from the 80s and 90s and 70s, for the original D&D or for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, go back and look through some of that. Because of the fact that they had so fewer available non-human player races, it forced them to design settings with a much broader variety of human societies. And so, while they've been on the surface thinking they're adding to the diversity by including tieflings and dragonborn and half-ogres and all these extra new races, what they're really doing is diminishing the diversity of the humans in potential D&D setting, because they're giving them less room to have different kinds of societies. Also, it doesn't help that so many of their fantasy races are traceable to Western European mythology. Not in every instance, but an awful goddamn lot of them. And that's not my fault, and it's not the fault of the people playing it and the people who like it. But if the company's going to be virtue signaling about how much they stand on the side of the black man, I'd love them to write something even that comes remotely close to Rift's World Book 4 Africa, the supposedly racist source book, that at least is actually fucking taking place and has details on sub-Saharan Africa in it.